Hello everyone and welcome to another speed paint. And actually, before we get started, one moment please. Okay, that's better, isn't it? Yes, on my hiatus, I actually ended up cutting my hair, and I thought it would be nice to include that in my little PNG tuber. I think it looks much better like this. Hope you like it too. Anyway, this video will be about how I animated my new intro. For now, you'll be watching me sketch the initial storyboard type of rough keyframes. The entire animation ended up taking me about 9.5 hours. So there's a lot of content to get through here, even though I did cut a little tiny bit of it out. Basically, just as I was animating, sometimes I would pause the recording and do things that were a little more tedious, like sort of fixing in-betweens and such, so that they're not all jittery or wonky or things like that. Although not every time things got tedious, but, you know, whenever I thought to, because I knew this would be a long recording. And since it's a long recording, you probably noticed that this speed paint is 20 minutes long. I really wanted to showcase the work on this as well as I could. The recordings of this are at 27,000% speed, which I was surprised is not unwatchable, but it is still a 20-minute video, so things will be going kind of fast. Especially when I start getting into the coloring stages, things will kind of be flashing a lot. When coloring frames and such, I tend to flip through the frames a lot and pretty quickly, especially for being sped up. It'll just go really fast and flashing like. So I guess warning for that, but that's like near the end of this video, probably in the last 5 minutes. I would cut it out, but I know there are some people who actually like watching that, so I hope those people enjoy. Anyway, so a little bit about how I'm doing this. I am using Clip Studio Paint X on my computer desktop. I'm using a Wacom Intuos tablet, the small version, so I don't have a big fancy tablet or anything. It works as well as I need it to. To record the screen, I'm using OBS, and later on when I do compositing, which I didn't actually record for this video, but just so you know, the effects that I add after the animation is done, I use Adobe After Effects, and I also go into CapCut and add a few like sparkles and stuff at the end. I also use some of CapCut's templates and stuff for the background. But all that stuff I don't really record myself doing. What I wanted to focus on here was the actual animation itself, so all the frames and all of that. Currently on screen, I've just recently finished refining some of the sketches for the keyframes, and I've been going in and doing some in-betweens. I will say, as I was animating this, what you're seeing, I was actually considering using these sketches as the line art, so I was sort of like going in a little more detail than I normally would, because I thought, oh, I would just color these sketches and the animation would be so easy and be done with. But then as I was getting further into it, I was like, but what if I worked really hard on this and took way longer than I really need to technically, and made it more of a crisp animation with non-sketchy line art. Really, I just like to torture myself, but that's pretty common in animators, so you know. I do kind of think that the more refined sketches did help for when I was going in and doing line art, so it's not a bad thing that I did all this, but, you know, I could have been a little more messy with it and it would have been fine. Specifically because I'm the only one working on this. If I was working with someone else, you know, these kinds of things, I would definitely want to be more precise about. But luckily, this animation is just for me and my little intro, so it's all good how I did it. When I was first working on the idea for a new intro, it was actually quite a while ago. I've been wanting to change my intro for a long time, especially since I've been using Clip Studio Paint X's animation feature along with, you know, Adobe After Effects and adding all these effects and such. You know, after I made that old intro with the little anime transformation, I ended up learning more about how to animate in these programs that I mentioned. And it honestly was not too long after that I learned how to sort of up the quality and such of how I do these things. So it's kind of been a few years where I've just been sitting here with this intro that I'm not 100% happy with. I mean, I think it's fine, but I always felt like, you know, it could be better, especially with the new things that I had learned. But I was content to just leave it be because I hadn't been really focusing on making videos in the last few years. I mean, I still have been making videos, but I guess you could say I wasn't trying to really put my best foot forward with them. And then once I started doing these weekly speed paints, I was just like, I already have these things, this intro and this outro, even though they're multiple years old, it's just easier to just be fine with them and use them, even though I always kind of did just want to change them and update them. But then, I took my hiatus, and I was thinking, it would be kind of fun to come back with a new intro. Although I will say, the weekly speed paints, I don't know if I would say that they would be coming back. Like, maybe you could say this is still technically a hiatus, but basically what I'm saying is I'm not going to be coming back weekly for speed paints. I'm just going to post them when I feel like making them, because when I was getting into that weekly grind, it was truly not doing very well for my brain. I liked to have something to do, but feeling like I had to do it was starting to weigh down on me, especially because I have a lot of projects I'm working on that each require my attention each week, and it didn't really feel good to have this pressure on myself to make a weekly speed paint every Friday. I still love making videos and everything, it's just that it became stressful. I did still upload a few speed paints onto my shorts tab. I feel like it's a good compromise. If I just make speed paint shorts, and then every so often when I have one that's a little more significant, then I make a video like this. Because what I was thinking to myself was, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? With how YouTube's algorithm works, I wasn't seeing a significant return with that either. I mean, every so often a video would do well. So I was thinking to myself, why am I doing this if, the goals that I had, they're not working out, and also I'm not having fun with it, and I'm also not earning enough in comparison to the amount of work I put in. So I was thinking, I should stop this because it's only hurting me. So I did stop. I was like, you know what, guys? I'm gonna put a hiatus on these speed paints, and I did, and I was thinking, what do I have to offer if I were to actually make, slightly higher quality videos, just not as often? When I didn't have a significant idea for a speed paint on some of those weeks, it was just sort of like a meh sort of video. Nothing cool about it, nothing extravagant. It was just sort of me drawing and blabbering on. So I was looking at the things that do sort of work, and things that, don't involve a niche that I'm not super duper into. Like, Magical Girls is not a niche that I'm super into. Those videos can do better, but I don't want to just make Magical Girl videos, so that was not something I wanted to do. Some videos that can do well sometimes are redrawing videos, like redesigning old characters or redrawing old art. Not always would they do well, but I do really enjoy those, so I'll probably do more of those eventually. But one specific one that I was thinking of was the speed paint form of one of my animations. The animation itself did not do that well, but the recording of how I did it did better. So I was like, well, if I make animated videos that I really thoroughly enjoy making, and I, record myself doing them, maybe those videos would do well. So I would be happy to make them. They wouldn't come out all the time, but I would work a little harder on the speed paint like this since this is 20 minutes. And it seems like people like to watch them, so, I guess you could say that's a win-win. That's the sort of video that I should make. That's what I should offer. I'm not 100% sure it will work, but if you're still here, I think that's good. And let me just say that while I was brainstorming over my hiatus and, a bit before it, about what sort of things that I should be doing that people would enjoy seeing, YouTube is a very confusing place. The internet is a very confusing place. I understand that it's not up to me or even the audience what things do well and what things don't. Really, I just had to think of what really makes me happy to make, and also in a way where I'm not too stressed about making it. If you're also a content creator, or if you want to get into it, I advise you think about those things as well. What do you have to offer? What does well? What makes you happy? Especially what makes you happy. I have a lot of different animation video ideas. Thinking about making them makes me happy, even if I know they wouldn't particularly do well. I just really love the act of making it, so it's fine. Anyway, so you probably noticed by now that the animation is in the line art stages. The line art on its own took about 3 hours. I'll also say that the sketch phase also took about 3 hours. The line art was just slightly under that, which I thought that was kind of interesting. It was just very nearly 1-to-1, which I just thought was interesting. Anyway, so these 3 characters. These 3 are my OCs, and in the order that they appear in the animation is Theo, Daimi, and Robbie. in the final pose from left to right, it's Daimi, Theo, and Robbie. Basically 3 OCs of mine that I just adore, and also I really relate to. I thought they would be a good choice for my intro animation. When I was thinking of what to animate for my new intro, the first thought was, well, I guess I should animate my little PNG tuber sort of design. I should animate them doing something. I did have a little sketch animation of me testing out animating my PNG tuber, making a heart with their hands. And I thought it was just cute, but it wasn't great or anything. Like, it didn't get me excited and happy. But this animation does. When I first sat down to make it, I was like, okay, I really want to make a new intro. Let me just brainstorm for a second. And it came to me. I was like, oh, it's Theo standing there. He turns around. And then, Daimi comes in. And then Robbie comes in. And then they look at the camera. The idea was, though, that they would all, point to the camera and then point up, and that's when my little username and such would show up. That was the first idea that I had for the sketches, but then as I was doing it, I was like, but what if they made a heart with their hands, like I had planned to with my persona? Because if you don't know this about me, hearts are my favorite shape. I just love them so much. In the background of the animation when it's all done, there's like a heart sort of pattern in the back. So as soon as I thought of them doing that, making a heart with their hands, I was like, oh, I have to do that. So after these long 3 years of struggling, because I think that intro that I used to be using was from 2021, and now it's 2024. From all those years, and now I just pick some of my favorite 3 OCs and just animate them kind of being cute. I think it turned out really fun. I really love it. I'm a little nervous about it because I was worried that a similar issue that I have with the outro, I might end up having with this, which I'll explain in just a second. Basically, if you watch my videos, you know, at the end in my outro is some of my characters doing an animated turnaround, and that animation is from June 2019. I've always been pretty proud of the animation itself. I always felt like I executed the idea of my characters doing a practically 3D turnaround pretty well. It's just that the animation is so old now that all of the OCs I used for that outro, all of their designs are just so very different, and as well as my art style. My art style has really changed because when I animated that old outro, I was using a mouse on, the computer. I only ended up getting a tablet in November 2020. So while I've always been technically proud of the animation and happy with how it came out, I've always also been like, man, these designs, the art, it's just, I just want to change it so bad. But I also always had the hang up of like, anything I do now is just not going to be as impressive, I guess. Like I had already done something pretty difficult, which is like the practically 3D turnarounds with multiple characters, and I'm still having that issue. I mean, I want to make a new end card animation, a new outro animation. I just don't know what to do for it because I just can't think of anything that's cooler than that, I guess. I mean, there are plenty of things cooler. It's just that what can I do right now that would be more interesting than this right now? I cringe at the designs and the art, but the animation itself is just fine. I just don't know what to do. So the thing I was worried about with the animation you're seeing on screen right now is like, what if, I update the character designs and I'm not happy with this anymore? I guess I'll cross that bridge when I come to it, because for now, I'm very happy with this, so it's all good. I have a few different songs that I really want to use. Of course, I want to use them in music box form, but I have a few different things that I really love and have always wanted to use for a video. I just have to really think what kind of visuals I want to make, because not only do I want it to be, good, but it needs to fit a certain part of the screen so that it doesn't get covered up by the links to other videos, since it's an end card. Just a lot of things to brainstorm, a lot of brainstorming this video. I could just go back and do some chibi animations. They wouldn't be impressive, but they'd be cute. Like one of my old outros was some of my OCs as chibis, just kind of being cute. Chibis are definitely not my strong suit though, so I don't know. But the thing is, not a lot of people stay for the outro stuff, so it might not even matter that much whether it's super good or not. Basically, I should just do something that I really enjoy to see. I definitely need to pick, some OCs that I really love. I could do these same 3 OCs, but I was really feeling disappointed that I couldn't fit Halen into this, Halen's another one of my OCs. He's the one with the long pink hair. So I'd probably like to include him in it. Or I could use the 4 characters from my story that I've been trying to do, which, one of them is Gimme. Or I could go back and do some other OCs that are a little unrelated to these, so like Jaden and her friends. I could go back into the way past and bring some of those very old OCs that I used to really adore when I was like kind of first making characters and stuff, and redesign them for a video and then make an outro with them. I don't know. It's a fun idea. I don't know if I would really super enjoy that, but I would like to animate them. I just don't know if I would like to do them for an outro. I just don't know. I guess I could, pick some of these characters, the ones that you're seeing now, and Halen as well, and sort of just make them dance. That's like a pretty surefire thing that's fun to watch. But man, dancing animations are hard. Even though I've done them so many times, but they're still hard every time. Oh, who knows? I'll definitely want to do it eventually here. I don't want to just have this old outro forever. We'll have to see. So back to what you're actually watching. You've been watching me do the shading for a little bit, and you also saw earlier how I do the eyes. If it confused you at all, basically I like to animate eyes on their own separate layer so that they don't mess with like all the hair and stuff. Like, it's a lot of things to correct if I need to correct the hair, and then the eyes are also there interfering with the line art that's already there. So I just personally find it easier to animate eyes on their own separate thing. But yeah, we're getting in some shading here. I'm using that warmer color for shading on the warmer tones on the characters, and then I'm using, the bluer color to shade on the cooler tones of the characters. And since I know the characters so well, I don't really have to check that often which color I'm shading. Like you can see, I have a filter over the actual colors of them so that I'm not too distracted by everything. And I'm just going pretty much straight through and adding shading. Sometimes I go in and do in-betweens for the shading as well, but that's really just for the touch-ups and the corrections and stuff. I try not to spend too much time on shading, but I guess I did spend about an hour on all this shading. I just had to go check the file, which, in comparison to the other steps is quite a lot less time. I say I try not to go too detailed, but then sometimes I just can't resist adding more. And then I have to add it to all the frames. I don't know. Again, it's that animator's curse of making too much work for myself, even though it's completely unnecessary. So I don't know how many animators are watching this, or how many actually got through my ramblings earlier. But I do hope seeing me go through all the steps like this might have helped a little if you've been trying to figure this out. I animate all the time, so I would love to make more videos like this if you like it. Unfortunately, since this video is 20 minutes long, I can't just have all of the audio of just me talking about purely how I'm animating. I also don't know what I would say for all of it. Although I will note here at the end, I guess, that the brush that I used for the line art is a 2-pixel binary brush. I do that because it's easy to keep things clean and add in the colors. If you're familiar with like the white line in between line art and coloring, that's because of anti-aliasing. But if you're using a binary tool, anti-aliasing doesn't apply. It really helps to speed up the coloring process. And then when I go in and add effects in After Effects, I use the plugin OLM Smoother. That will make the binary lines appear to be anti-aliased lines. I know if you're not an animator or artist, a lot of this is not going to make much sense to you, particularly if you're not a digital artist. It's a lot of random words. I barely know what anti-aliasing means. But if you were curious on why I use the binary tool and then later it looks smooth, that is why. I add the OLM Smoother plugin in After Effects in compositing. Anyway, yay, I got through all 20 minutes of talking. Oh, that was a lot. I hope at least the visuals kept you entertained. After my hiatus, this was a really fun video to make. Thank you for allowing me to take that. I'm once again not going to be returning to weekly speed paints. I'm just going to do them whenever I feel like it. I'm probably going to post more often onto my Shorts tab. So if you ever want to see my art a little more regularly, you can probably scroll through that. But thank you so much for watching this. I really appreciate it. Please let me know in the comments what you think, or if you're an animator, artist, or any sort of creative, if you're working on a big project, I'd love to hear about that. Remember to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. YouTube loves when I tell you to do that. And it will also show me if you want more long speed paints like this that are rarer but bigger. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Animate.